Welcome, curious minds, to the deep dive. Today, we're jumping into a book that honestly has really changed the game for millions when it comes to money. Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Our mission today, pretty straightforward. We want to pull out the core financial wisdom from this bestseller and translate its big ideas into clear, relatable examples. Basically, give you a motivating roadmap to start building wealth wherever you're starting from. We'll look at some really different views on money, unpack common financial traps, and hopefully give you some practical steps to really transform your financial future. So, Robert Kiyosaki's whole journey into finance started with this really unique upbringing. He had two key father figures in his life, and they had, well, radically different ideas about money. His biological dad, his poor dad, was highly educated, PhD, advanced degrees from places like Stanford, Chicago, Northwestern, all on scholarship. Super smart guy, worked incredibly hard, earned a good income, but he always seemed to be struggling financially, ended up leaving unpaid bills behind. Then there was his best friend Mike's dad, the rich dad. This guy never even finished 8th grade.
Yeah, quite the contrast.
But he became one of the wealthiest men in Hawaii, left behind tens of millions. So this stark difference really shaped how young Kiyosaki saw money.
And that central conflict is, I think, what makes the book so powerful right from the start. You have these two strong, charismatic men. Both believed in education deeply, but they pointed down completely different roads to financial success. For you listening, that immediately throws up this big idea.
Yeah.
There's no single right way to think about money, or even education, really. Kiyosaki's experience shows that we're always getting these clashing messages, right? And we have to choose. Like, he'd hear from one dad, the love of money is the root of all evil. And from the other, no, the lack of money is the root of all evil.
Wow, polar opposites.
Totally. Or one would say, I can't afford it, which, as Kiyosaki points out, just kind of shuts your brain down. The other dad would always push back with, okay, how can I afford it? It's a question meant to get you thinking, problem solving.
That's a huge difference in approach.
Absolutely. And it extended to everything. Politics. The rich should pay more taxes versus taxes punish the producers, careers, study hard so you can find a good company to work for.
The standard advice.
Right. Versus study hard so you can find a good company to buy. EVA, even the family home. One saw it as the biggest investment, the greatest asset. The other, he'd say, my house is a liability. And if your house is your largest investment, you're in trouble.
That one still makes people's heads spin, I think.
Oh, definitely. These weren't small disagreements. They were fundamentally different ways of seeing the world.
And having those two very strong opposing views right there forced Kiyosaki to, well, he had to think, didn't he? He had to compare them, weigh them up, and choose his own path. It wasn't about just accepting one or rejecting the other. It was about developing his own financial radar, his own discernment. And that's really what we're encouraging you to do today. Question things, compare ideas, figure out what financial philosophy actually works for your life and your goals.
And this touches on something vital, something the book highlights so well. Financial education. You mostly learn it at home, not in school.
Right. Schools don't teach this stuff.
And that explains why you see incredibly smart, highly educated people, bankers, doctors, accountants, still struggling with money. Schools give you academic skills, professional skills. They train you to be a good employee. But they don't teach you how money works or how to make it work for you.
It's a massive gap in the system.
It really is. And it has big consequences. You know, it feeds into things like national debt, future worries about Medicare, Social Security. Most parents, because they probably didn't get that financial education either, can only pass on what they know, which is usually stay in school, study hard.
Good advice, but not the whole picture.
Exactly. Yeah. As Kiyosaki found out, it's only half the equation.
You know, it's interesting how his rich dad viewed that phrase, I can't afford it. He didn't just see it as a statement of fact. He saw it as, like, mental laziness.
Like avoiding exercise.
Yeah, like avoiding a workout for your brain. He believed the brain's a muscle. You got to exercise it, especially about money, saying, I can't afford it. That just lets your brain off the hook.
Right.
But asking, how can I afford it? That forces your brain to get creative, find pathways, find solutions. It's a conscious choice to flex that muscle. Okay, so let's dig into this first big lesson, the core idea from Kiyosaki. The rich don't work for money, they have money work for them. What does that actually mean in practice?
Well, at heart, it's about shifting your focus. Instead of just trading your time for a paycheck, you focus on building things, assets that generate income for you.
Okay.
And this whole shift started for Kiyosaki with a childhood story. Back in 1956, he's 9 years old, and he gets that stinging feeling of being poor because he and his friend Mike can't go on a beach trip with some richer kids.
Ah, that childhood exclusion feeling, powerful motivator.
Totally. And it sparked this direct question to his dad. Dad, can you tell me how to get rich?
And that desire, born out of feeling left out, it led them to try something. Interesting.
Huh. Yeah, interesting is one word. They tried to make money, literally. They started counterfeiting nickels by melting down lead tubes and pouring them into plaster molds.
Oh, wow. Okay, definitely entrepreneurial, if misguided.
Exactly. And when his poor dad found out, he was gentle but firm, explained it was illegal. But crucially, he also praised their initiative, their gumption to produce something. He told them not to quit trying.
That's pretty good parenting, actually. Address the wrong, but encourage the drive.
Right. But then came the turning point.
Kiyosaki's biological dad, the poor dad, admitted something important. He said, look, I can't teach you how to make money. I chose to be a teacher. I didn't focus on getting rich.
Wow, honest.
Very. But then he suggested they go talk to Mike's dad, the rich dad, the guy who, even though he didn't look flashy, was quietly building this empire. That was the nudge they needed.
And that leads us straight into Rich Dad's core philosophy about how life teaches you. It's fascinating. He said life doesn't really talk to you in words. It just pushes you around.
It pushes you around. How so?
Like challenges, setbacks, frustrations. Each push is a lesson waiting to be learned. Most people, he said, either just give up when life pushes, or they push back, but they push against the wrong thing, their boss, their job, their spouse.
Blaming outward.
Exactly. But a few people, they learn the lesson from the push and they move on. They actually welcome the pushes as chances to get smarter.
And Kiyosaki definitely felt life pushing him with Rich Dad's first job.
He talks about being furious, right? Rich Dad paid him just 10 cents an hour, 3 hours every Saturday dusting canned goods.
Yeah, basically nothing even then.
And then, after 3 weeks, Rich Dad stopped paying him altogether.
Huh. You can imagine their reaction. Oh, yeah. But Rich Dad wasn't just being mean. It was deliberate. It was his way of letting life push them around so they'd actually confront their feelings about work and money. It really makes you stop and think, doesn't it? How often do we blame external stuff for our money problems instead of looking at our own reactions and choices?
That's the core of it. Rich Dad's big lesson here was, look, if you think I'm the problem, you have to try and change me. Good luck with that. But, he said, if you realize that you're the problem, then you can change yourself. Learn something. Grow wiser.
Much easier to change yourself than everyone else.
Infinitely easier. And that's the bedrock of taking personal responsibility for your financial life.
Okay, so this leads into the famous...
Precisely. It mirrors what so many employees feel. And Rich Dad explained this. Rat race is basically being controlled by 2 core emotions, fear and greed.
Fear and greed. How do they create the cycle?
Well, the fear of not having money.
Yeah.
That gets you out of bed and motivates you to work hard. Then, once you get that paycheck, greed kicks in. Or maybe desire is a better word. You start thinking about all the wonderful things money can buy.
A bigger house, a new car, nice vacations.
Right, which leads to more spending. Often spending everything you earn, maybe more. So you need more money, which means you keep working harder, chasing the next raise.
Only to spend that too. Get up, go to work, pay bills. Get up, go to work, pay bills.
That's the pattern. That's the rat race. And here's a key insight. Just getting rich doesn't automatically solve this. Kiyosaki points out many rich people are even more afraid of losing all their money.
So it's a psychological trap as much as a financial one.
Absolutely. Rich Dad also felt that just avoiding money altogether, pretending it doesn't matter, was equally problematic. A kind of psychotic denial, he called it. His solution: be honest about your emotions. He called them emotions, energy in motion. Acknowledge the fear, acknowledge the desire, but don't let them control your thinking. Use your mind, use your emotions in your favor. Don't just react. Think.
It sounds like that analogy he uses the donkey chasing a carrot on a stick.
Exactly. Most people, he says, are like that donkey, chasing the carrot's paychecks, raises, job security, driven by fear of not having and desire for what the carrot represents. But they never stop to question where those emotions, that chase, is actually leading them.
Meanwhile, the donkey's owner.
The owner goes exactly where he wants to go, while the donkey chases an illusion it can never quite catch.
So how does ignorance play into this?
Rich Dad believed ignorance about money just intensifies the fear and desire. When people stop seeking information, stop learning about how money works, stop looking inward for self-knowledge, ignorance sets in. That's what creates the struggle.
Schools teach you a skill.
Right, skills to function in society, to be an employee, but often the financial learning just stops there. And that's the trap. He had some pretty stark quotes about this. To spend your life living in fear, never exploring your dreams, is cruel. And to work hard for money thinking that it will buy you things that will make you happy is also cruel. And maybe the most gut-wrenching. To wake up in the middle of the night terrified about paying bills is a horrible way to live.
Yeah, that hits home for a lot of people. It makes you question breathic assumptions. Like, aren't prices just supposed to go up all the time?
Kiyosaki's Rich Dad challenged that very idea. He actually argued that in a truly educated society, prices should come down.
Really? How?
He believed rising prices are largely driven by greed and fear, fueled by widespread financial ignorance. He criticized business schools for training bean counters, focused only on cutting costs and raising prices, missing the bigger picture of innovation and efficiency that could lower costs for everyone.
Interesting perspective.
And this led Rich Dad to offer the boys a choice. He could just give them a raise, keep them happy in the short term, or he could take them into what he called the briar patch.
The briar patch sounds ominous.
It was a metaphor for confronting your fear, your weaknesses, your neediness head on. It meant learning to choose your thoughts instead of just reacting emotionally to money pressures. That, he said, was the path to having money work for you.
And this connects back to their nickel counterfeiting attempt.
Right. He told them they were close to thinking like the rich they were trying to make money, but it was illegal. The rich, he explained, figure out how to legally make money, often seemingly out of thin air. They understand money isn't entirely real. It's an illusion, an idea, held together by confidence and by the ignorance of the masses who don't question it. Learning to see past the illusion is key.
Wow. That's a huge mental shift. And it leads perfectly into the second crucial lesson. It's not about how much money you make. It's about how much money you keep. This really brings in the long-term view, right?
Absolutely. Kiyosaki uses his own life as an example. He retired 47. His wife, Kim, even younger, 37. Because they focus on building assets that grew and generated income automatically.
Like planting a tree, he says.
Exactly. You water it, nurture it for years. It takes patience. But eventually it grows big enough to sustain itself, provide shade, provide fruit, without your constant effort. Your assets become your tree.
But it's not just about getting rich. It's about staying rich, isn't it? He tells that cautionary tale.
Oh yeah, the story of the titans of industry from 1923. Guys like Charles Schwab, Samuel Insull, Jesse Livermore, some of the richest men of their time. But fast forward 25 years after the 1929 crash and the Great Depression, many of them died broke or in prison or by suicide.
A really sobering reminder.
It drives home the point. Massive wealth without the underlying financial intelligence, without knowing how to manage and protect it, well, it can vanish surprisingly quickly, especially when times get tough.
And you see that pattern repeat, right? Lottery winners, pro athletes.
All the time. Millions pour in, but a few years later, they're back where they started, or worse.
Kiyosaki mentions a basketball player, millionaire at 24, washing cars at 29, blaming others.
It's tragic, but it underlines the lesson. Making money quickly isn't the same as knowing how to manage it. Kiyosaki uses the analogy of building a skyscraper.
Right, the Empire State Building versus a suburban house.
Exactly. For a skyscraper, you need a deep, strong foundation. Dig deep, pour lots of concrete. For a suburban house, a 6-inch concrete slab might be fine. But he argues most people, in their rush to get rich, try to build that skyscraper, their financial dreams, on that shallow 6-inch slab.
Because they lack the foundation.
The financial literacy foundation. Our school system, designed for an older era, sends kids out without it. They get academic skills, but no real understanding of money. So later, when they're maybe in debt chasing the dream, they fall for get-rich-quick schemes, trying to build tall on a weak base. It's bound to be unstable.
So how do you build that strong foundation? What was Rich Dad's rule number 1?
It sounds incredibly simple, maybe too simple. He said, you must know the difference between an asset and a liability and buy assets.
That's it, the only rule.
That's what he claimed was the most important rule. But, as the book shows, understanding and applying that simple rule is where most people stumble, even highly educated ones.
Because they've been taught differently or it seems too basic?
Partly, yeah. And also because the definitions Rich Dad used were based purely on cash flow, not complex accounting jargon.
Okay, so what were his definitions?
Super straightforward. An asset is simply something that puts money in my pocket.
It's money in.
And a liability is something that takes money out of my pocket.
Takes money out. Got it. Cash flow direction is the key.
That's it. Forget fancy definitions. Just follow the cash.
He stressed that financial literacy isn't just about words, it's about understanding the story the numbers tell. How is the cash flowing?
And why do educated people often struggle with this seemingly simple idea? Kiyosaki suggests it's almost like their education gets in the way sometimes. They're trained for complexity, so simplicity seems wrong. Or maybe they overthink it. He illustrates this brilliantly with the typical American dream story, which often becomes a cash flow nightmare.
Ah, yes, the young couple. Let's walk through that.
Okay, so you have this happy, highly educated young couple. They get married, both working. Their incomes start to rise.
Good start.
But what else rises? Expenses. Taxes go up, bracket creep, Social Security. They decide to buy their dream home.
The biggest asset, right? Or so they think.
Exactly. So now they have a mortgage payment and property taxes. Maybe
Mhm.
they buy a new car to go with a new house, new furniture on credit. Suddenly, their liabilities column is filling up fast mortgage debt, credit card debt.
Okay, I see where this is going.
Then maybe a baby comes along. Wonderful, but expensive. So they work harder. Maybe one gets a promotion, more money, but expenses rise again. Maybe they take out a bill consolidation loan, roll that consumer debt into their mortgage, extending payments over 30 years. They think it's a smart move, lowering monthly payments.
But they haven't addressed the spending habits.
Precisely. So the credit cards just fill right back up.
Yep.
They're working harder than ever, earning more than ever, but they feel trapped, stuck in the rat race, digging the hole deeper.
It's a perfect illustration. It really isn't about how much you make, it's how you manage and direct that money, which comes down to financial literacy.
If you find you have dug yourself into a hole, Kiyosaki quotes, stop digging. But most people just keep looking for a bigger shovel.
So how do you stop digging? How do you break free?
This is where Kiyosaki brings in that Japanese concept of the three powers: the sword, weapons, the jewel, money,
And the mirror.
and the mere self-knowledge, which the ancient Japanese valued most. He argues the poor and middle class often let money control them. They follow the crowd, conform to common financial wisdom without questioning it.
Like what? What kind of conforming thoughts?
Oh, things like, your home is your biggest asset, or get a mortgage for the tax break, basically. Get rewarded for having more debt. Or get a safe, secure job. Don't make mistakes. Don't take risks.
The very ideas that keep people playing it safe and often stuck.
Exactly. Fear of standing out, fear of being criticized, fear of ostracism keeps people from seeking new ideas or challenging the status quo.
So you need to look in that mirror, trust your own inner wisdom, and dare to be different, financially speaking.
Which brings us back to the controversial idea of the house. Rich Dad didn't just say it could be a liability. He often insisted it was one for most people.
Why? What was his reasoning?
Purely cash flow and opportunity cost. People work their whole lives paying for a house they never truly own outright, often refinancing into new 30-year loans when they move. He listed several reasons. 1, loss of time. Money tied up in the house could be invested elsewhere, meaning you have to work longer and harder. 2, loss of capital. Money spent on maintenance, property taxes, insurance isn't growing or generating income. 3, loss of education. Because all their capital is tied up in the house, they have no money left over to learn how to invest, no experience gained.
That's a big one.
Yeah. Plus, the cycle of 30-year loans paying interest for decades. The fact that most house expenses, maintenance, insurance are paid with after-tax dollars, even if mortgage interest is deductible. Property taxes often rise, especially hitting retirees. And crucially, houses don't always go up in value. Sometimes they drop.
So again, he's not saying never buy a house.
No, not at all. He owned a nice house.
Yeah.
But his point was, understand the true cash flow impact. Know if it's functioning as an asset or a liability for you. His approach. If he wanted a bigger, more expensive house, he would first buy assets like rental properties or businesses that generated enough extra cash flow to cover the payments and expenses of that new house.
Ah, so the assets buy the luxury. The house becomes a reward funded by his asset column, not a drain pulling money out.
Exactly. That flips the whole script.
Yeah.
And it leads directly to understanding the different cash flow patterns.
Right. How the rich get richer and the middle class struggles.
If you look at a simplified financial statement, for the rich, the asset column is constantly generating income. That income covers their expenses, and the surplus gets reinvested back into.
More assets.
Right. So the asset column grows, which means the income grows, which means they can buy more assets. It's a positive feedback loop. The rich get richer.
Okay, and the middle class pattern.
For the middle class, the primary source of income is salary from a job. As wages increase, taxes tend to increase, and expenses often rise right along with income. They get trapped in that rat race. Their main asset is often their home, but it usually functions as a liability, generating expenses and tying up capital. They might have some retirement savings, but not significant income-producing assets. This creates, Kiyosaki argues, a high-risk way of living, purely because of weak financial education and a reliance on a single income source. When a real deal of a lifetime comes along, they can't jump on it.
Why not?
Because they're usually working hard just to pay the bills, they're taxed heavily, and they're loaded down with debt from liabilities they thought were assets. They have no spare cash flow or capital.
So the lack of early financial education creates the risk. They have to play it safe because their balance sheet is precarious. Lots of liabilities, few real assets.
That's the real tragedy, he believes. They're forced into a defensive financial position.
So how should we measure wealth then, if not just by income or net worth?
Kiyosaki liked R. Buckminster Fuller's definition.
Hmm.
Wealth is a person's ability to survive so many number of days forward. Meaning, if you stopped working today, how long could you maintain your current standard of living based purely on the income generated by your assets?
Ah, okay, so it's about financial independence duration.
Exactly. It's different from net worth, assets minus liabilities, because net worth often includes non-income producing things, or junk, as Kiyosaki puts it, like personal possessions, or even your house if it's draining cash. If your assets generate, say, $1,000 a month, but your living expenses are $2,000 a month, your wealth, by this definition, is only half a month's survival.
So to be truly wealthy, your passive income from assets needs to cover or exceed your expenses. You're no longer dependent on your job's wages.
That's the goal. That's financial freedom.
Okay, so let's recap lesson 2. It boils down to the rich buy assets, the poor only have expenses. The middle class buy liabilities they think are assets.
Couldn't say it better myself.
Mhm.
That's the core distinction.
All right, let's move on to lesson 3. Mind your own business. Kiyosaki kicks this off with that great story about Ray Kroc, the founder of McDonald's.
Oh yeah, the University of Texas MBA class visit.
Right. Kroc asks the students, "What business am I in?" And they all laugh, thinking, obviously, hamburgers.
Of course.
But Kroc drops the bombshell. "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not in the hamburger business. My business is real estate."
Boom. And that, for Kiyosaki, is the perfect example of how the rich think. They say laser focused on their asset column.
How did Kroc mean real estate?
Well, Kroc understood that while the system was selling hamburger franchises, the real money, the long-term wealth, was in controlling the land underneath those golden arches. He knew the physical location was the most critical factor for each franchise's success. So essentially, the franchise owner was paying rent or a mortgage that ultimately benefited McDonald's corporate, which owned or controlled the land.
So McDonald's became this massive real estate company disguised as a burger joint.
Pretty much. Today, it's the largest single owner of real estate in the world. It makes you stop and think, doesn't it? What business are you really in?
What does he mean by that for the average person?
He means most of us spend our lives working, minding someone else's business. You work for your employer, making the owners rich. You work for the government, paying taxes first. You work for the bank, paying your mortgage or other debts.
So you're minding everyone else's business before your own.
That's his point, which leads to the critical distinction he makes between your profession and your business.
Okay, explain that.
Your profession is what you do to earn a paycheck. You might be a chef, a teacher, a programmer, a salesperson. That's how you trade your time for money, often working within someone else's company.
Right.
But your business, Kiyosaki argues, should be your asset column, the collection of things you own that generate income for you, independent of your job.
So a job pays the bills, but the business builds your wealth.
Ideally, yes. The problem is, schools train us to focus entirely on our profession. You study something, you become that thing, the engineer, the lawyer. And in doing so, you often forget to build and mind your own business on the side. You spend your working life making someone else rich.
So when people say, "I need a raise," or "I need more training for a better job,"
Kiyosaki hears them focusing only on increasing their earned income from their profession, which is fine, but it misses the crucial step of using that income to build income-generating assets. That's how you achieve real financial security and freedom.
Okay, so if we need to focus on building our asset column, our own business, what kind of real assets does he suggest acquiring?
He lists several categories. Things like 1, businesses that you own but don't require your physical presence to run. They have managers in place. 2, stocks. 3, bonds. 4, income-generating real estate properties that produce positive cash flow after expenses.
Not just properties you hope will appreciate.
All right, cash flow is key. in his definition also. 5, notes, which are basically IOUs or loans you've made to others that pay you interest. 6, royalties from intellectual property, things like music, books, patents. And finally, basically anything else that has value, produces income, appreciates over time, and has a ready market if you need to sell it.
So the common thread is that these things work for you, putting money in your pocket, often without you needing to be actively involved day to day.
That's the goal. Build that asset column brick by brick.
He also mentions Rich Dad encouraged buying assets you loved. Why was that important?
Because if you love something, whether it's real estate or stocks in companies you admire, or collecting art that appreciates this, you're more likely to take care of it, study it, understand it. Your passion fuels your diligence. Rich Dad loved real estate and stocks in small growing companies.
That makes sense. And this ties into how the rich handle luxuries, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's about the order of operations.
Yeah.
Rich people, Kiyosaki observed, buy their luxuries, the fancy cars, the big houses, the vacations last. They use the income generated from their assets to pay for those luxuries. The assets buy the toys.
Okay, and the poor and middle class?
They tend to buy luxuries first, often on credit. They might buy a fancy car or take out a big loan for a boat to look rich.
Which just digs them deeper into debt.
Exactly. It increases their liabilities, drains their cash flow, and keeps them stuck. Kiyosaki tells the story of his wife, Kim, wanting a Mercedes.
Right, the Mercedes story.
They didn't just go out and buy it. They waited until their portfolio of apartment houses generated enough extra passive income each month to easily cover the car payments and insurance.
So the car wasn't a financial burden.
Not at all. It was a true reward, a tangible result of their financial intelligence in building their asset column first. That's the key difference in mindset.
Okay, let's shift gears to lesson 4, which Kiyosaki calls the biggest secret of the rich. This involves understanding taxes and the strategic use of corporations. He starts by challenging that whole Robin Hood idea, right? Taking from the rich to give to the poor.
Yeah, he really pushes back on that. We're often taught Robin Hood was the hero. But his rich dad provocatively called Robin Hood a crook.
Why? What's the argument there?
Kiyosaki argues, looking at history, that the idea of taxing the rich to help the poor, while maybe well-intentioned initially, ultimately ended up hurting the poor and middle class the most.
How so?
Because governments, once they get a taste for money, develop an insatiable appetite. Taxing only the rich often isn't enough. So eventually the tax burden inevitably shifts downwards onto the middle class and even the poor. Meanwhile, the rich, being financially savvy, don't just sit there and take it. They figure out ways to legally minimize their tax burden.
They play the game differently.
Exactly. They find loopholes, they hire smart accountants and tax attorneys, they structure their affairs using corporations, and sometimes they even influence the laws themselves. Think about things like the 1031 exchange in real estate, which lets investors defer capital gains taxes when they sell one property and buy another.
That's a huge advantage.
Massive. So the tax code becomes this complex system with built-in advantages for those who understand it and know how to use it. This really raises a question for listeners. Are you letting fear, or maybe just lack of knowledge about taxes and corporations, stop you from using perfectly legal strategies to keep more of your money and build your assets faster?
He also touches on the history of corporations themselves. Where did they come from?
He traces them back to the age of sailing ships. Wealthy merchants wanted to finance voyages, but sailing was incredibly risky. Ships sank, pirates attacked. So they created corporations. Investors could pool their money to fund a specific voyage through a corporation. If the ship was lost, the investor's loss was limited only to the money they put into that single corporate entity for that voyage. Their other personal assets were protected.
So it was originally a risk management tool?
Precisely. A way to limit liability and encourage investment in risky ventures.
And that principle still applies today.
Absolutely. Knowing how to use the legal structure of a corporation gives the rich a huge advantage. When taxes change, they adapt. They find the legal ways around it. As Rich Dad said, playing the game means knowing the rules, and hiring smart people to help you navigate those rules is part of the cost of doing business effectively.
Okay, so this knowledge is part of what Kiyosaki calls financial IQ. He breaks that down into 4 main areas, right?
Yes, 4 pillars that work together. First is accounting. This is basic financial literacy, being able to read and understand financial statements, balance sheets, income statements. You can't build an empire if you can't read the numbers accurately.
Makes sense. What's second?
Second is investing. This is the science, or maybe the art, of making money. Understanding different investment strategies, formulas, risk versus reward.
Okay. Third.
Third is understanding markets. This is the science of supply and demand. Knowing what drives markets, both the technical side, which is often emotion-driven, and the fundamental side, based on economic sense. Is an investment sensible from an economic perspective?
And the fourth pillar.
Fourth is the law. Having an awareness of the rules, accounting regulations, corporate law, state and federal laws and regulations. Playing by the rules is crucial, but knowing the rules and how they can benefit you, like tax advantages offered by corporations, gives you a massive edge. Using corporations legally allows for tax advantages and protection from lawsuits.
And this ties into that key cash flow difference he highlights.
Exactly. For an employee, the typical flow is you earn money, then you pay taxes, then you spend what's left.
Earn, tax, spend. Got it.
But for a business owner using a corporation, the flow can be different. You earn money through the corporation, then the corporation spends money on legitimate business expenses, and then the corporation pays taxes on whatever profit is left.
Earn, spend, tax. That sequence change is huge.
It's a fundamental advantage. The corporation can legally spend money on things that might benefit the owner, like travel, cars, meals related to business, before taxes are calculated on the profits. Kiyosaki strongly advises learning about how corporations and other legal entities can protect your assets and offer tax advantages. It's about playing the financial game smarter, using the existing rules effectively.
All right, lesson 5 really pushes the boundaries. The rich invent money. This sounds almost magical. He starts by saying, in the real world, it's often the bold, not just the smart, who get ahead.
Yeah, he uses that Alexander Graham Bell story. Bell invents the telephone, offers the patent to Western Union for $100,000. Western Union execs scoffed, called the price ridiculous, thought the telegraph was invincible.
Big mistake. Huge.
Colossal. Bell went on to form AT&T, a multi-billion-dollar industry they could have owned for a relative pittance. Bell was bold? Western Union wasn't.
And he contrasts that with the story of the downsized manager.
Right. The guy who loses his job is terrified about losing his house and is reduced to literally begging the guards at his old company, hoping to get his job back. It's a stark contrast in mindset, creator versus victim.
So what holds most people back from being bold, from inventing money?
Kiyosaki pinpoints self-doubt as the biggest killer of personal genius. He argues that financial genius requires both technical knowledge, the stuff we just talked about, accounting, investing, markets, law, and courage. Boldness. Most people, when it comes to money, are just too afraid of losing, too afraid of making mistakes. They play it safe.
So why should we bother developing our financial IQ then? If it requires so much boldness and challenges our comfort zone, what's the real payoff for us?
The payoff is simple: more options. Kiyosaki sees the constant change in the world not as a threat, but as an exciting opportunity. He'd rather welcome change than dread it. He believes we're in this amazing period where old structures are dying and new ones are being born. And in this era, wealth is increasingly found in information and ideas. Old ideas about jobs and security, they're becoming liabilities. Developing your financial IQ lets you navigate this change, spot the opportunities, and actually prosper instead of being left behind clinging to outdated concepts.
This really forces us to question what money even is. He says his rich dad told him money isn't really real.
Yeah, that it's what we agree it is, an idea, an agreement.
How does that work in practice?
Think about it. In the information age, money moves at the speed of light. Fortunes are made and lost based on ideas and agreements, often without any physical cash changing hands. Stock trading is a perfect example. You can buy and sell shares, making millions potentially, based purely on electronic agreements, blips on a screen. Is that real, tangible money? Not really. Money in this sense is an illusion. It's held together by confidence, by agreement, and for many, by ignorance of how the system actually works. The rich understand this game. The poor and middle class often take the illusion as concrete reality.
Okay, that's a big concept. Can you give a concrete example of inventing money like Kiyosaki did? He shares that Phoenix story, right?
Yes, it's a fantastic practical example from the early 90s when the Phoenix real estate market was terrible. Everyone was running away.
Bad times for most people.
But the best time for savvy investors, as Rich Dad taught. So Kiyosaki found a house worth about $75,000, but it was available for just $20,000 through a bankruptcy attorney's office, or maybe the courthouse steps a distressed sale.
Okay, huge discount, but he needed $20,000.
Right. So step 1, find the deal. Step 2, raise money. He borrowed $2,000 from a friend for 90 days, promising him $200 interest. He used that $2,000 as a deposit to tie up the $20,000 house deal.
Clever. What next?
While the legal paperwork was processing, which took a little time, he immediately put an ad in the paper. House for sale, $60,000, zero money down.
Offering it for much less than market value, but way more than he paid, and with easy terms.
Exactly. His phone rang off the hook. Several buyers were interested. Once the house legally became his, he showed it, and it sold in minutes. He charged the buyer a $2,500 processing fee, which they happily paid to secure the deal.
Okay, follow the money here.
So he collects the $2,500 fee, uses that to pay back his friend the $2,000 loan, plus the $200 interest. He pockets $300 cash. He's now sold a house for $60,000, which the buyer owes him via promissory note. It cost him $20,000, which is owed to the original seller bank, likely covered by the new buyer's financing eventually, or structured differently. The crucial part, the $40,000 difference, $60K sale price, $20K purchase price, was essentially created out of the transaction. Became a new asset in his asset column, a $40,000 promissory note from the buyer, paying him interest.
And how much work did that take?
He estimates about 5 hours total, finding the deal, making calls, placing the ad, showing the house, signing papers. And he and Kim repeated this process 6 times during that depressed market slump.
6 times.
Yeah, creating over $190,000 in assets, those promissory notes, paying them around 10% interest. That generated about $19,000 a year in passive income, much of it sheltered from immediate taxes through their corporation.
Okay, stop right there. Think about that, listeners. How long would it take the average person to save $190,000 after taxes?
Decades, for many.
And Kiyosaki essentially created that value, generating $19,000 a year in income and maybe 30 hours of focused work by applying financial intelligence.
That's the power of inventing money. It's not magic. It's applying knowledge and taking action.
Which brings us back to those 4 technical skills.
Accounting, investing, understanding markets, and law. They're the foundation that allows you to recognize these opportunities when they appear. The world is constantly presenting deals, Kiyosaki says. But if you're not trained financially, you just won't see them. They aren't seen with your eyes, they're seen with your mind.
He also makes a distinction between 2 types of investors, right? The packaged versus the creative.
Yes, most people are type 1. They buy packaged investments, they go to a financial planner or broker and buy mutual funds, stocks, bonds off the shelf, like buying a pre-built computer from Dell or Apple.
Easy, convenient.
But often comes with fees and less control. The second type of investor, the one Rich Dad encouraged, is the one who creates or assembles investments, like someone who buys computer components and builds their own custom machine.
More complex, but potentially more rewarding and tailored.
Exactly. And to be that second type, Kiyosaki says you need 3 additional key skills beyond the basic financial IQ.
What are they?
First, how to find an opportunity that everyone else missed. Seeing value where others see none. Like his friend who bought that spooky rundown house everyone avoided, but noticed it came with 4 extra empty lots. Tore down the house, sold the 5 lots separately, tripled his money in 2 months. Seeing with your mind. Second, how to raise money. Knowing how to get capital without just walking into a bank. Using other people's money, seller financing, finding partners, structuring deals creatively, like tying up that $1.2 million apartment deal with just a contract, then finding an investor to take over his position for a $50,000 fee in 3 days. He never needed his own money. And third, how to organize smoking people. Realizing you don't have to be the expert in everything. Truly successful people work with or hire advisors and team members who are smarter than they are in specific areas of accounting, law, management. It's about building a team.
That's crucial. So it boils down to, it's what you know that is your greatest wealth. What you don't know is your greatest risk.
You got it. Ignorance is expensive. Knowledge is power.
Okay, lesson 6 flips another piece of conventional wisdom. Work to learn, don't work for money. This contrasts sharply with his poor dad's focus, which was all about
Job security. Benefits. Climbing the ladder within one company or profession. The traditional path.
rich dad's focus.
Learning, acquiring skills, broadening knowledge, even if it meant lower pay initially.
He tells that story about the journalist, the talented writer.
Yeah, the woman who had a master's in English lit wrote beautifully, but her novels weren't selling. She wanted to be a best-selling author, but was struggling financially.
And Kiyosaki identified the missing piece.
He saw she was probably just one skill away from great wealth. She was brilliant at writing the hamburger, as he puts it, but she knew nothing about selling or marketing the hamburger. Those were the missing skills.
And he suggested she take a course in sales.
And she was horrified, insulted even. Me, a professional writer, stooped to being a salesperson. She couldn't see the connection.
But Kiyosaki himself embraced this.
Totally. He admits he's not a great writer. He calls himself a best-selling author, not a best-writing author. Big difference.
Ha, fair point.
He became successful because he combined his okay writing skills with strong sales and marketing skills, which he deliberately went out and learned, partly through working at Xerox early on, specifically to overcome his fear of rejection in sales.
So his point is the world is full of talented people, artists, inventors, chefs, writers who struggle financially.
Not because of what they know, their core skill, but because what they don't know about the business side, selling, marketing, managing money, leading people. They can make a great hamburger, but can't get it to the customers profitably.
This ties into the debate about specialization versus generalization.
Right. Society, especially schools, pushes specialization. Become an expert in one narrow field,
Mhm.
a cardiologist, a tax lawyer, a software engineer specializing in one language.
Which can lead to higher pay in that field.
It can. But Kiyosaki warns it can also lead to being trapped. Highly specialized skills might not transfer well if your industry changes or disappears. You become dependent, vulnerable. You study more and more about less and less.
So Rich Dad advised the opposite.
He encouraged Kiyosaki to know a little about a lot. He deliberately had him work in different departments of his companies: accounting, construction, sales, marketing, reservations. He made him sit in on meetings with his bankers, lawyers, accountants, brokers. Why? To gain a holistic understanding of how all the pieces of a business system fit together.
Seeing the whole forest, not just one tree.
Exactly. And crucially, Rich Dad emphasized learning leadership skills. He'd served in the military and believed managing people was the toughest but most vital skill in business. If you can't lead, your business will likely fail.
This really challenges that old phrase, JOB is just overbroke.
Right. Working solely for a paycheck and benefits often leads to short-term rewards, but can be a long-term trap, keeping you dependent.
So what's the alternative approach to choosing jobs, especially early on?
Kiyosaki suggests looking for jobs based on what you will learn, more than just what you will earn. Take a long view of your career. Ask yourself, what skills does this job offer me? Will it teach me sales, marketing, management, understanding financial statements, even if the pay isn't the highest right now?
He even suggests taking a second job sometimes.
Yeah, specifically to gain a critical skill you lack. He often recommends network marketing, not necessarily for the primary income, but because those companies usually offer excellent sales training and force you to confront fears of failure and rejection.
It's like going to the gym for your business skills.
Perfect analogy. The hardest part is deciding to go, making that first call, facing that first rejection. But pushing through builds resilience and skill.
And what about those who do choose high specialization?
He advises them to strongly consider unionizing or having strong professional associations. Because if your skills are so specialized, like an airline pilot, your leverage is mainly within that specific industry. A union helps protect your value in that narrow field.
Let's circle back to McDonald's. Why does it make more money than maybe a local chef who makes a far superior burger?
Simple business systems. McDonald's isn't about having the best burger. It's about having incredibly efficient, replicable systems for everything. Supply chain, food prep, marketing, real estate selection, employee training. The talented chef focuses only on the hamburger, the products. McDonald's focuses on the entire hamburger delivery system. That's the difference.
Rich Dad also groomed people by rotating them through departments.
Yes, he wanted them to understand the whole system. And he wasn't afraid to hire people smarter than himself in specific areas, accountants, lawyers, and let them work together as a team. Synergy.
And this all connects to his philosophy of giving.
Absolutely. Both his dads were generous, but Rich Dad deeply believed in the principle of give and you shall receive. He practiced tithing, giving money away, especially when he felt short himself. He believed that if you want something, you first need to give. Feeling short of money, find a way to give some away. Need sales, help someone else sell something. Want contacts, help someone else make contacts.
It sounds counterintuitive, especially when you feel lacking.
It does, but he saw it as a fundamental law. Poor people, he contended, are often more greedy than rich people in the sense that they aren't providing value or solutions that others want to pay for. Rich people get rich by figuring out how to give people what they want or need. Kiyosaki found this true in his own life. The more I teach those who want to learn, the more I learn. Giving knowledge brought back more insights. It's about creating flow and abundance through generosity.
Okay, so we've learned the lessons. We understand the concepts of assets versus liabilities, minding our own business, working to learn. It seems like the path should be clear. But Kiyosaki says, hold on. Even if you're financially literate, there are major internal roadblocks that stop people from actually building wealth. He lists 5 big ones.
That's right. And it's crucial because he argues the main difference between someone rich and someone poor isn't intelligence or even luck. It's primarily how they manage fear.
Fear, that's the first obstacle.
Yep. The fear of losing money. Everyone has it. Rich people, poor people, middle-class people. It's universal. The difference is how you handle it.
So how do you handle it? He says, it's how you handle losing, how you handle failure that makes the difference. That sounds tough.
It is tough. The biggest misconception people have is thinking they can somehow avoid failure or loss altogether by just playing it super safe. Kiyosaki says that's often the riskiest strategy of all. He offers a couple of ways to frame it. One is start early. The earlier you start investing, the more time compounding has to work its magic and the less impact any single loss has over the long run. He uses that mind-boggling Manhattan Island example, $24 invested turning into trillions. Time heals many investment wounds.
But what if you didn't start early?
Then you need the second approach. Think like a Texan.
Like a Texan, what does that mean?
He admired the Texan attitude. Go big. When they win big. And if they lose, well, they lose spectacularly, dust themselves off and go big again. They don't play small. They embrace risk as part of the game. Rich Dad constantly hammered this. Playing it too safe is why most people never achieve significant wealth.
So it's about shifting from playing not to lose to playing to win.
Exactly. Most people build portfolios designed primarily not to lose heavy on cash, CDs, maybe some balanced mutual funds. Safe, low growth potential. Winners, he argues, are focused. They learn, they analyze, and they make calculated, often concentrated bets they believe will win big. They understand that losing is part of the process. Think about learning to ride a bike. You will fall down. Golfers lose balls. People get their hearts broken falling in love. Winning usually follows losing.
So if you dream of financial freedom, you have to reframe your relationship with failure. See it as feedback, not a catastrophe.
Winners are inspired by failure. Losers are defeated by it. Look at innovators like Edison, Gates, Soros, CLRAs. They had massive setbacks, but they stayed focused. They weren't balanced. They were driven.
Okay, that fear ties into the second obstacle, cynicism, the Chicken Little syndrome. The guy is falling.
Oh yeah, we all know people like that. They always have a reason why something won't work, why disaster is just around the corner. Doubt, fueled by what-ifs, often spread by worried friends, family, or just the constant negative noise from the media. It paralyzes people.
But savvy investors see opportunity in that fear.
That's the key. The best times to make money are often when things look the worst, when everyone else is panicking and running for the exits. That's when assets go on sale. Kiyosaki draws a line between criticism, which blinds you, and analysis, which opens your eyes. Cynics criticize, investors analyze.
He tells that story about the townhouse deal.
Right. His friend finds a fantastic deal, a townhome for $42,000, easily worth $65,000. Great potential. But then a neighbor who knew nothing about investing casually mentions someone else got a bad deal nearby. The friend gets cold feet, overcome by doubt, buyer's remorse before he even bought it. He backs out. That little voice of cynicism won.
And the outcome.
The townhouse was worth $95,000 a few years later. A massive opportunity lost because he listened to uninformed noise instead of doing his own analysis. Doubt is incredibly expensive.
And people use cynicism to avoid action too, right? Like the classic real estate complaint, but I don't want to fix toilets.
Exactly. The cynic focuses on the negative detail, fix toilets, and uses it as an excuse not to invest. The analyzer asks, how can I handle maintenance without doing it myself? And the answer is simple. Hire a property manager. Analyze the system. Don't criticize the task.
He even turned cynicism into profit with oil stocks.
Yeah, a worrywart friend was complaining endlessly about rising oil prices. Instead of joining the worry, Kiyosaki saw an opportunity. He researched undervalued oil stocks, bought some, and profited when prices inevitably went up. He used analysis and risk management tools like stop-loss orders to protect his downside. He turned noise into signal.
Okay, obstacle number 3, laziness. But not just couch potato laziness, right?
Yeah, it's a more insidious form, often disguised as busyness. People who are constantly rushing around, working late, juggling kids' activities, glued to the TV, always too busy to think about their finances or learn something new. Deep down, Kiyosaki suggests, they often know they're avoiding something important, taking control of their financial life. But the busyness provides a convenient excuse.
So what's the cure for this busy laziness?
Provocatively, he says the cure is a little greed. Or, maybe better put, desire. You need to tap into that what's in it for me frequency, WIIFM, what rewards await if you do take action.
But isn't greed bad? Aren't we taught desire is selfish?
Many of us are conditioned that way. We hear things like, you only think about yourself, or the classic, we can't afford that. So we learn to suppress our desires, feel guilty about wanting more. But Rich Dad saw it differently. He absolutely forbade saying, I can't afford it. because it's a mental dead end. It shuts down thought. He insisted on asking, how can I afford it? That question forces your brain to work, to find solutions, to engage possibilities. Desire, framed this way, becomes a creative force.
So we need to give ourselves permission to want something better, to ask, what would my life look like if I never had to work again?
Exactly. Without that little greed, that genuine, powerful desire for freedom, for control, for a better life, the motivation to push through the difficulties just isn't there. Desire fuels action.
All right, obstacle number 4, bad habits, specifically financial habits.
Our lives, he says, are more a reflection of our habits than our education. He uses Arnold Schwarzenegger as an example. His physique wasn't built by wishing, but by the habit of daily workouts. And a common destructive financial habit, paying everyone else first and yourself last.
Explain that. How does that work?
Most people get paid. First thing they do, pay the bills. Rent or mortgage, credit cards, car payment, utilities, government, taxes often withheld. Whatever is left over, if anything is left over, maybe they save or invest. Usually it's nothing. They pay themselves last. The rich, Kiyosaki learned from Rich Dad, do the exact opposite. They pay themselves first.
But how? What if there isn't enough money to cover the bills after you've paid yourself? That sounds stressful.
It is stressful. That's the point. Rich Dad said he still paid himself first, allocated money to his asset column, even when cash was tight. Why? Because the pressure builds. Who's going to scream louder if they don't get paid, he'd ask. Me or my creditors?
The creditors, obviously.
Right. That pressure from unpaid bills becomes a powerful motivator. It forces him to think, okay, how can I generate more income now to pay these guys? It sparks creativity, forces action, makes him financially stronger and smarter. It's like the 98-pound weakling analogy he uses. If you just let the bullies, creditors, financial pressures, kick sand in your face by paying yourself last, you stay weak. But if you use the fear of the bully to motivate you to get stronger, find more income, you overcome the challenge. If he paid himself last, there'd be no pressure, no motivation to find extra income, and he'd likely just stay broke.
But he also adds a crucial caveat. Don't get into large consumer debt positions in the first place.
Absolutely. Rule number 1 for making pay yourself first work is keep expenses low, avoid unnecessary debt, build your assets first, then buy the big house or the fancy car with income from those assets.
Okay, and the final obstacle, number 5, arrogance.
This isn't just garden variety cockiness. It's often arrogance born from ignorance, believing that what you don't know isn't important, or using bluster and strong opinions to hide the fact that you're actually clueless about a topic, especially money.
Rich Dad had a saying about this.
Yeah. What I know makes me money. What I don't know loses me money. He saw people losing money all the time simply because they were too arrogant to admit they didn't understand something. An investment, a contract, a tax law.
So what's the antidote to arrogance?
Humility and education. When you realize you're ignorant about something important, especially finance, don't try to fake it. Go find an expert in the field or find a good book on the subject and educate yourself. Truly intelligent people, Kiyosaki notes, welcome new ideas, even ones that challenge their current thinking. They listen more than they talk. They're willing to admit they don't know everything. Arrogance closes your mind. Humility opens it.
And he adds a little encouragement for us listening.
Right. He basically says, if you've stuck with this deep dive this far, listening and wanting to learn, arrogance probably isn't your biggest problem. Taking the time to learn is the opposite of arrogance.
Okay, we've covered the core lessons, the mindset shifts, the obstacles to overcome. Now, for the part many people are waiting for, how do I actually start? What are the practical steps?
Right. Kiyosaki acknowledges that getting started isn't necessarily easy. It's like learning to ride a bike. You're going to wobble, maybe fall a few times. But with determination, it becomes second nature. He firmly believes everyone has a financial genius lurking inside them, often dormant, just waiting to be awakened and put to work.
Like that gold miner analogy.
Exactly. The old miner says there's gold everywhere. Most people just haven't been trained to see it. Kiyosaki believes the same is true for financial opportunities in real estate, stocks, business. They're all around us, but we need the training, the financial literacy to recognize them.
So he offers 10 steps, not necessarily a rigid checklist, but more a thought process, habits he follows daily to keep his own financial genius sharp.
Let's go through them. Step 1, find a reason greater than reality, the power of spirit.
What does that mean?
It means you need a why, a deep, powerful, emotional reason why you want to achieve financial freedom. It can't just be a vague wish. It needs to be stronger than the inevitable obstacles and setbacks reality will throw at you.
So a mix of wants and don't wants.
Precisely. Kiyosaki lists his own. He didn't want to work his whole life like his poor dad. He didn't want conventional job security or a suburban house. He hated his dad missing his football games for work. He hated seeing his dad work so hard only for the government to take a huge chunk in taxes.
And the wants.
He wanted freedom to travel, freedom to control his own time and life. He wanted his money to work for him, not the other way around. Those deep wants and don't wants created a powerful driving force.
Because without that strong why.
Anything in life is hard, Kiyosaki says. If your reason isn't strong enough, the daily grind and challenges will feel overwhelming. Find your deep emotional drivers.
Okay, step 2, make daily choices. The power of choice.
This is about recognizing that every single dollar you handle represents a choice about your future. Are you choosing to be poor, middle class, or rich with how you spend it? Your spending habits reveal your financial priorities, who you really are.
So choose consciously.
Choose what you do with your time, your money, and crucially, what you put into your head. He emphasizes investing first in your financial education. Go to seminars, listen to audio programs while driving, read books on finance, investing, business. Arrogant people rarely learn. They think they know it all. Choose to learn daily. He mentions a $385 real estate course that directly led to him making millions best investment ever.
Step 3, choose friends carefully. The power of association.
Now he's clear. Don't pick friends based only on their money, but be aware of the influence your social circle has.
How so?
Friends who are actively building wealth tend to talk about money, business deals, investments, market trends. You learn just by being around those conversations. Friends who are struggling financially often avoid the topic or maybe complain about it. It's a different energy, a different set of inputs.
And avoid the chicken littles.
Definitely. Don't spend too much time with people who are always telling you why something won't work, why you'll fail. Their fear is contagious. He also notes that the crowd usually shows up late to good deals. Wise investors often buy when things are unpopular, patiently waiting for the tide to turn. Having friends who are savvy investors can provide valuable and legal insider insights into what's coming next.
Step 4, master a formula, then learn a new one. The power of learning quickly.
Your brain absorbs what you study. If you're tired of your current financial results, you need to change the formula you're using. Learn a new way to make money work.
Like he did with foreclosures.
Exactly. He learned a specific formula for buying real estate foreclosures, mastered it, made millions. But he didn't stop there. He then actively sought out new formulas for buying big apartment buildings, for stock options, for starting businesses. In today's rapidly changing world, he stresses, it's not just what you know, but how fast you learn new things that gives you the edge.
Step 5, pay yourself first. The power of self-discipline.
This one is tough, maybe the toughest. Kiyosaki is blunt. If you can't control yourself, don't even try to get rich. Lack of self-discipline is why lottery winners go broke, why diets fail.
So self-discipline is paramount.
He believes it's the #1 factor separating the wealthy from everyone else. It underpins key management skills. Managing cash flow, managing people, managing your own time effectively. He references George Clayson's classic, The Richest Man in Babylon, the principle of allocating money to your asset column before you pay your bills.
Even if money is tight.
Especially if money is tight, that's when the pressure cooker works. Let the pressure from creditors motivate you to find more income, rather than just dipping into savings or investments to pay the bills. That pressure builds your financial muscles. But again, the key prerequisite is don't get into heavy consumer debt loads in the first place. Keep liabilities low.
Step 6, pay your brokers well. The power of good advice.
This goes against the grain for many people trying to save money. They look for discount brokers or try for sale by owner to avoid commissions.
But Kiyosaki takes the opposite view.
He believes strongly in paying good professionals. Attorneys, accountants, real estate brokers, stockbrokers, well, why? Because their primary job is to make you money or save you money, far exceeding their fees. Good information and expert execution are priceless. He tells a story about a real estate broker finding him a piece of land for $9,000 that he quickly sold for $25,000. That profit helped him buy a Porsche much faster than saving alone. A good broker is your eyes and ears, saving you time and bringing you deals.
How do you find a good broker?
Find one who is also an investor themselves. Someone who owns property or stocks, whose goals align with yours, who understands the game from the inside. Interview several before choosing.
Step 7, be an Indian giver. The power of getting something for free.
Okay, this phrase is a bit dated and potentially problematic, but let's focus on the concept he's explaining. It's about an investment mindset.
Right. Not about being unfair, but about looking for extra value.
Exactly. On every investment deal, sophisticated investors look for an upside beyond just the main return. They ask, what else do I get for free out of this deal?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's owning a piece of land that comes with mineral rights. Maybe it's buying a stock that might spin off shares in another company later. Maybe it's getting seller financing on favorable terms. Ray Krukrock wanted the real estate under his franchises, essentially for free as part of the deal structure. It's about maximizing the return by finding hidden or additional assets within the transaction.
Step 8. Use assets to buy luxuries. The power of focus.
We touched on this earlier, but it's a core discipline. Don't buy luxuries with debt or your own hard-earned capital. Build assets first, then use the cash flow from those assets to pay for the luxuries.
He shares that great story about his friend teaching his teenage son about this.
Oh yeah, the 16-year-old wants a car. The dad could just buy it for him. Instead, he gives the son $3,000. The condition: use that $3,000 to invest in the stock market with guidance. Learn how it works. Turn the $3,000 into $6,000 through smart investing. Then the $6,000 profit is for the car. The original $3,000 goes back into a college fund.
What else?
The son initially lost some money, but instead of giving up, he got hooked. He started reading everything: Value Line, Wall Street Journal. He learned voraciously because he had skin in the game and a clear desire. The car, the dad's logic. I'd rather have him lose everything now at 16 than wait until he's our age to risk losing everything. It taught the son the crucial lesson: direct money to make more money first. Let the desire for consumption motivate investment, not lead directly to debt. The easy road, just buying the car, often becomes the hard road financially.
Step 9. Choose heroes. The power of myth.
As a kid, Kiyosaki hit baseball heroes. As an adult focused on finance, he adopted financial heroes: Donald Trump for his deal-making bravado, Warren Buffett for his value investing, Peter Lynch, George Soros.
Why is having heroes important?
Because emulating heroes is a powerful form of learning. Heroes make complex things look achievable. They inspire you. They convince you, hey, if they can do it, maybe I can too. Studying your heroes, reading their books, analyzing their strategies, even just imagining how they'd approach a deal demystifies the process and gives you courage. When Kiyosaki negotiates, he says he subconsciously taps into Trump's boldness. When analyzing a trend, he tries to think like Buffett or Soros.
Step 10. Teach and you shall receive. The power of giving.
This brings us back full circle to the principle of giving. Both his dads were teachers, but Rich Dad deeply believed you have to give first to receive.
Tithing, charity.
Yes, but also giving knowledge, time, support. His core belief: whenever you feel short or in need of something, give what you want first, and it will come back in buckets. Need money? Find a way to give some money or help someone else make money. Need contacts, connect others. Feeling down? Give someone else a smile or encouragement. It creates a reciprocal flow.
That idea that poor people are more greedy than rich people.
It's provocative, but his point was that rich people often become rich by figuring out how to provide immense value that others want and are willing to pay for. They focus on giving solutions. And for learning, teach it. The more I teach those who want to learn, the more I learn. If you really want to master money, teach what you're learning to someone else. It forces clarity and generates new insights for you too.
Okay, those 10 steps provide a great mental framework. But people often want specifics, like, what can I literally do tomorrow? So Kiyosaki anticipates this and offers a list of practical actions, things he actually does.
Right. These are less philosophy, more boots-on-the-ground activities to find opportunities and take action. First, stop doing what's not working. Seriously, if what you're doing financially isn't getting you the results you want, stop doing it. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results. Take a break, assess, maybe try something completely new. Second, look for new ideas. Actively hunt for them. Go to the bookstore or online and browse the how-to sections on finance, investing, business. He calls these books formulas. Buy books on subjects you know nothing about and see what sparks.
Talk to people too.
Absolutely. Find someone who has successfully done what you want to do, bought rental property, started a business, invested in stocks. Take them to lunch. Ask for tips, advice, insights. Most successful people are willing to share. Third, take classes, read, attend seminars. Keep investing in your education. He mentions that $385 course. Again, it keeps paying dividends decades later. Make lifelong learning a priority. Fourth, make lots of offers. Don't just analyze forever. Get in the game. Whether it's real estate, stocks, or business deals, you learn by doing. Practice the cycle. Search, offer, get rejected, negotiate, maybe get accepted. Volume leads to experience and eventually success. Most people are too afraid of offering or looking stupid. Fifth, jog, walk, or drive a certain area regularly, like once a month. Specifically look for real estate opportunities. What signs have been a forever? See any moving trucks? Means a potential motivated seller or buyer. Notice changes, new construction. Talk to people, postal carriers, new retailers moving in. They often know what's happening before it hits the market. Sixth, shop for bargains in all markets. This is counterintuitive. When the supermarket has a sale, people rush in. When the stock market or housing market crashes, goes on sale, people panic and run out. Wrong. Rich Dad taught, profits are made when you buy, not when you sell. Buy low. Look for bargains when others are fearful. Seventh, look in the right places. Don't just talk to a real estate agent who doesn't own any property themselves. Look where investors look. Foreclosure auctions, bankruptcy sales, networking events for investors. He paid $500 for a class just to learn how to navigate those specific channels. Eighth, find people who want to buy first, then find someone who wants to sell. Think bigger. Instead of looking for a small deal you can afford, find a bigger deal. Figure out how to structure it. Maybe find partners or buyers for pieces of it before you even commit. Buy the pie and cut it in pieces. Small thinkers look for small deals and rarely get the big breaks. Ninth, learn from history. Understand market cycles. Realize that all big companies started small. Colonel Sanders didn't hit it big with KFC until the 60s. Bill Gates was a billionaire before 30. Success comes at different times and scales. Study the past to understand the present. And finally, maybe most importantly, action always beats inaction. You can read, study, analyze forever. But until you take that first step, make that first offer, start that first investment, nothing happens. Do something.
Wow, that was a comprehensive deep dive. We've covered so much ground from Rich Dad, Poor Dad, from the core philosophies to the obstacles and the practical steps. It really feels like the essence is using financial intelligence to solve life's problems rather than just relying on brute force hard work.
That's exactly it. And it challenges that common belief. It takes money to make money. Kiyosaki argues that's the mindset of the financially unsophisticated. Money, he insists, starts as an idea. If you want more money, you need to change your thinking. Every self-made person started small with an idea, maybe a tiny amount of capital, and built from there. The same applies to investing. You don't need a fortune to start. You can start small, learn, practice, reinvest, and grow. It's about getting educated and taking those first steps.
And ultimately, the goal is to convert your income, right? He talks about the 3 types.
Yes, this is a crucial takeaway. He distinguishes between 1, ordinary earned income. This is salary from a job, what Poor Dad recommended. It's generally the highest tax form of income. 2, portfolio income. This comes from paper assets, stocks, bonds, mutual funds. This is how people like Bill Gates got incredibly wealthy initially, generally taxed lower than earned income, for example, to capital gains. 3, passive income. This typically comes from real estate investments, royalties, or businesses you don't actively manage. Historically, this has often been the least taxed income, with many deductions and depreciation benefits.
So the ultimate key to wealth is
The ability to convert your earned income from your job into passive income or portfolio income as quickly and efficiently as possible. That's the game. Because the government taxes the income you work hard for much more heavily than the income your money works hard for. That's the secret the rich understand and use. That's how Kiyosaki, Kim, and Mike became financially free.
And is investing really that risky?
Kiyosaki argues passionately that investing isn't risky if you know what you're doing. The risk comes from not knowing what you're doing. It comes from financial illiteracy. As Warren Buffett says, risk comes from not knowing what you're doing. Financial education is your best risk mitigation tool.
So let's leave our listeners with a final thought to chew on. If you truly embrace these principles of financial intelligence from Rich Dad, Poor Dad, how might your entire definition of work and retirement completely transform? How might it allow you not just to survive, but to... So let's leave our listeners with a final thought to chew on. If you truly embrace these principles of financial intelligence from Rich Dad, Poor Dad, how might your entire definition of work and retirement completely transform? How might it allow you not just to survive, but to genuinely thrive completely on your own terms? Something to think about as you move forward on your own financial journey. Thanks for diving deep with us today.